Hi everybody, welcome to another video. If you love landscapes in watercolor like I do, well, that's what today's video is all about. I got myself some of this Fabriano paper, watercolor paper. It's hot pressed, and I've got a couple of different sizes of this. This particular size is 9 by 12, 140 pounds, and it's only 25% cotton, which makes it a little more tricky for watercolor, I feel. You're not going to get a lot of bleeding and stuff. There's not going to be so much flow. Yeah, that's kind of what I feel like is going on with this paper. But I still like it, and I think it's very unique in that it's thick enough to handle the watercolors, but yet it can take some other mixed media like acrylics or gouache, that sort of thing. So I do recommend this. I am not regretting the purchase, let's just say that. And I'm also going to be using my M-Gram watercolors as usual to work on this piece today. Since I'm actually filming this intro after I painted it, I'll show you a couple of little glimpses at the final results just to get you interested. Before we get started, I want to show you really quickly. This is a screenshot of an image I took the beginning of last fall and out in the woods. And this is what I'm using for my reference today. And I did kind of like zoom in and I moved it around, just working with the actual composition. And that is a great way to, if you don't like exactly what you're working on or you don't like the placement of things, you can resize and reshift. But I wanted to share with you on my iPad because I could not locate this actual JPEG on my laptop to pop it in here. So this is me showing you that. Next I want to share with you is my palette. So this is a John Pike palette. It actually comes with a lid. I still have my mess from painting the painting you're going to see today. And I always keep these string of colors here. I just spray and just start working into my mess. I keep this way because sometimes I'll reuse these because they're still good colors to be used. It's only when I need some space and I really need to do a lot of mixing that I'll do a cleanup. But I wanted to lay out some of my colors. This is my home palette that I use a lot. I have a small, if you've been on here before, I have a small palette that I use a lot for out in the woods, and I have a couple other little palettes, but it's mostly between this and the little palette that I keep out, that I take out for the woods. But you'll see, this is my M-Gram layout. I've got everything from Azo Yellow, Cad Yellow, Cadmium Red, Light, Maroon, Perylene, Permanent Alizarin Chrism, Ultramarine Blue, Cobalt Blue, Cerulean Blue, Cobalt Blue. Oh, I got two. No, Cobalt Teal. This is Cobalt Teal, Sap Green, Phthalocyan Green. What a name. Lamp Black. And I also have Payne's Gray, which this should be probably down here, Payne's Gray. And then I use a variation of my browns, which are the Raw Sienna, Burnt Sienna, Raw Umber, and Yellow Ochre. So that's most of my colors. So if you need to take a screenshot of that, feel free to take a screenshot, and then you'll see what I'm using and see if you'd like to try any of these. I have others, and I have other brands, but this is what I use the most. I recently bought, as another brand, this Daniel Smith beautiful lavender color, and I have a little tiny set of Daniel Smith, but I'm mostly in love with these M-Gram watercolors. Right from the start, I'm working on some of my initial washes. I've already affixed the painting or the paper to my desk using some of my tape that I have, and this is tape specifically for painting. It's artist tape. And then I've masked off my primary space that I want to work on. Then from there, I went straight into actually doing some of the detail work. I usually go back in, and if I have a light enough surface to start with, I utilize my initial layer
to help me do the extra details before I start getting into some of the actual layering down of colors. Now, when I'm working on the tree itself, I am actually not just using straight up black. It's actually a combination of everything from black to Payne's gray, a little bit of raw umber, a variation of colors, and maybe sometimes a little bit of like cobalt blue just to give variety. Because I don't want my tree, and even in the image itself, it was a very unique light to dark. The bottom of the tree was very lighter than the top of the tree, as to perhaps maybe it had been in a burn at some point, and maybe it had received some fire, but which sometimes actually stains the bark a good bit for a while. But once I had those foundation layers and I started putting in my details, then I wanted to really see if I could utilize doing more bride rush type techniques where I could layer up the background to the foreground, because the grass needs to look a lot more defined, and there's a lot more contrast closer up, and then just a slow evolution away and showing all these details. And then there is the distance of the trees that I was slowly working up over time. Now, as a person who really loves Andrew Wyth and have all my life, I personally love this dry brush technique. I like having the diversity of a looseness of watercolor with high detail. So that's why you will see me go in with a pencil for some basic details to get myself started, and then I'll use a very fine brush. Now, coming forward, I actually wanted to make sure that some of the elements that are more common here, like saw palmetto bushes, were somewhat evident, because it certainly was in my reference photo. Now, coming back to Andrew Wyth, if you love Andrew Wyth like I do, there is a new show that it's currently, I believe it's in Winston-Salem, and then it's going to the Brandywine Museum, and then it's going to be actually here in Florida, in Jacksonville, at the Cummer Museum of Art in October. So if you are someplace close to Florida or one of those other locations, something for you to keep your eye out. There's also a new book that's available, and I'll drop in the name here. How I found out about the book was I often attend talks by Andrew Wyth's granddaughter, Victoria Wyth. If you've never heard Victoria talk, I highly recommend it. You can check her out on her Instagram page. She talks a lot about her grandfather's work, as she has since her youth been giving tours off and on at the Brandywine Museum. And then she does talks where you can actually purchase a Zoom meeting with her, and she shows you work. Sometimes it's stuff you've never seen before that's not been in a book. And she gives you an insight into her grandfather's life and his processes, and just a whole, like an inner sanctum of the Wyth family lifestyle and what was going on with them at various times. And it's very intimate and very touching. And what a pleasure it is, if you love Andrew Wyth, to be able to have that kind of insight from a living person who knows an artist, or knew an artist, as well as a granddaughter, obviously, knows Andrew Wyth. So the talk that I recently attended, she talked about her grandfather's work late in life. And it was almost, I would say it was very sentimental, to be honest with you. It was just a very sentimental talk. And I really love the opportunity to hear that and be able to ask questions even. So if you're interested in that, you can go to the Brandywine Museum website, and you can sign up for her talks, and then you just are sent a link, and it's so easy, and it's just really nice to have that extra insight. I think possibly in my work you can see the influence of Andrew Wyth, although it is never my goal to ever produce anything that looks like Andrew Wyeth's work unless I'm going to do a master copy, which I might do at some point. I know I've done them in the past, just doing maybe a sketchbook challenge that I've worked on in the past, but it'd be nice to pick out something and just do straight up an Andrew Wyeth study on like a single piece of paper, like I'm doing today, just painting on a single piece of paper. So with this particular painting, I'm working on some really high detail. I'm using one of my finer brushes. I couldn't even tell you, it's probably like a 1 or a 0 brush. I will say that in times like this, when I'm working on really fine detail, it's so hard for me to talk while I'm actually working. So if you're looking for a way to really get quiet and get away from anything that's going on in your life or any stress that you might have, painting is, I feel like, one of the best ways to do that. Because the more you get into your work, the more you are in basically a mind refuge, an artist's mind refuge, where you can step away and just focus on shapes and depicting hopefully something that you love. Like I love nature. I love these landscapes so much. But unfortunately, we've moved now into the time where I can't get back outside again. It's too hot. It's getting too hot. There's very brief moments where I can get outside. And so once again, I'm having to rely on my iPad and my resources. That's why I take a ton of photos every year, because you never know when you really just need to pull up a resource and just do something, even if it is for just the act of creating art or, like I said, stepping away into that art refuge that we all need. So for me, I really like using my iPad because I can do a screenshot of something that I have like on the computer or whatever. And the iPad does not shut down. I think other devices you can set it up where it doesn't shut down quite so quick, but it takes a long time for the iPad to shut down an image, so I'm not so stressed. It's not like you're trying to look at something on a phone, and I don't have to drag my actual whole laptop into another room. I can just take an iPad and set it up anywhere. Even if you had a stand of some sort, you could put an iPad on a little stand and put it next to your canvas or whatever you have, or just sit next to your table and be able to paint pretty much anything that you want to, that you have as a reference. It's just so simple. But like I said, if you don't have an iPad, you can just use your actual laptop. Most of us have laptops these days, and just put it up and use something that you have. Just don't let anything intimidate you. That's one of my biggest tips. I feel that sometimes when you see too much detail, you can get a little intimidated. But I always try to break things down into simple shapes and to simple steps and just see where it takes you. And every time it may not be a success. I will tell you, there's plenty of stuff that I would not share here on YouTube with you guys. But most of the time, because I've been doing it so long, my results are at least okay for me at that moment in time. So for this painting, I would definitely not be able to talk and do this painting because it took a couple of days or 2 or 3 days working out all the details. The details is really what can get you bogged down. And for me, it's just a layering process. As you see, like these grasses, just trying to give it a look of distance by layering up all those grasses. And then using a very fine tip paintbrush for some of these branches and the leaves. I would also vary the colors from browns to more grays to blacks, and just do a variation, especially on the finer twigs. You would want it to be a lot lighter because there is illusion as a branch gets smaller and smaller. The light behind it basically intrudes. The finer a branch gets, the more the light around it makes it appear a lot lighter than it seems in real life. Another factor you need to think about when you're doing landscapes especially is that the contrast of lights and darks can appear a lot more intense closer up, and then further away as they move out into the distance, the atmosphere makes things appear a lot lighter than they are. That's why when you're in a place where there's mountains, often mountains will look a bluish or a purple color. The more atmosphere that gets between you and that object and distance, that adjusts all those appearances of color. Of course, that's something that you need to consider when you're actually painting something. You need to think about the distance and the atmosphere. The closer up, the more the contrast, the further away, less contrast.
Okay, I think that's as far as I'm going to take this. So let's see if I can carefully remove this tape now. And hopefully not tear the paper. Wish me luck, because it's been on there for a few days. So far, so good. There we go. There's the tiniest amount of bleeding right there. All in all, it came out pretty good. So all I need to do is just add my name or initials. I'm not sure which one I will do. Somewhere over here. And I'm calling that good. So here it is up close and personal. That's more detail. Really worked on a lot of detail in this one. Some splatters in there. A little bit of looseness, but mostly tight. A lot of like dry brush and splattering. This paper is not 100% cotton, so it's not really good for big, thick washes. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with today's results. Even though I did do it over a period of time, just because I got distracted. But I do like it. How about you? What do you think? What's your thoughts? Beautiful old oak out in the woods here in Florida. Well, with that, I guess we'll draw this video towards the end. I'm actually thinking about possibly selling some of these loose items over on my store on Etsy eventually. But if you're interested in that, you can go over to my Patreon account and join. You can join for free. And I also have a couple of reasonable tiers, the lowest one being just $3. Anybody in that tier will get notified first, and they'll get a discount. But then right after that, within a day or so, I will notify everybody else over on Patreon. So if you're interested in possibly grabbing yourself one of these images, one of these original paintings of mine, you can hop over there. And so you'll be one of the first people to actually know that there is an original piece available. And so with that, I will wrap up today's video here. If you like today's video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, ring the bell for notifications of any future videos, and leave me the word trees, at least in the comments, just so I know you got to the end. I really appreciate all your support. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much and have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you next time, guys. Bye.